It's only 2 hours, 22 minutes. Wow. Rated M. I mean, I know that it's interesting. I looked at the running time of the previous two. This is number 3 and 5 of the Fantastic Beasts franchise. The first one was 2 hours and 14 minutes. The next one, I mean, I understand that, anyway, look, sorry, the first one was 2 hours, 12 minutes, then 2 hours, 14, and now we're up to 2 hours, 22. I mean, seriously, they don't need to be this long. I'm sorry. That's the first thing I'd say. This is set several years after the second film in the series. Second one was called Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. And that came out in 2018. So Gellert Grindelwald's power trip knows no bounds. He intends to wreak havoc. He wants to take over the world. He makes that perfectly clear to Albus Dumbledore in a restaurant at the start of the movie. Dumbledore acknowledging his previous love for Grindelwald in that scene. Is that a sort of a special moment, folks? I mean, before I go any further, acknowledging that there was a sort of homosexual link between the two of them? Is that something that we should be sort of saying, well, yeah, this is a pivotal moment in Hollywood? What do you reckon, Dave?
Yeah, it was. I know for a lot of the fans, there was a lot of rumours when the Harry Potter films were out that Dumbledore might have been gay. And I think there was a brief mention of a possibility of it in one of the novels, but yeah, this was J.K. Rowling really telling the audience that, yes, Dumbledore is gay.
And Peter, J.K. Rowling seems to be on the nose at the moment. I mean, she's got strong opinions, she expresses them. People don't like the fact that she has some opinions that don't concur with what society's standards are at the moment. And she's been sort of shunted from the centre, hasn't she?
She has, and it's interesting how she wrote this film very much along the lines of the Harry Potter films. But I thought that sequence about that love, I didn't interpret it necessarily as a gay sort of idea. I thought it was more about respect and understanding and familial sort of a familial approach, which I thought I didn't necessarily see that as being a gay topic at all.
I didn't think. I thought it was glaringly obvious. What do you think, Greg?
I'm with Dave there that there was that subtext in some of the Harry Potter novels there, so it wasn't a complete surprising revelation to me. But it was more the other things that the film focused on that was a thing of it, the relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, and all that stuff about, you've got the references to Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the rigged elections in America, and that, which were far more interesting to focus on.
Well, I mean, the action is set in the 30s, in the lead-up to the Wizarding World's involvement in the Second World War. So, anyway, after we've established the relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald as children, if you like, because of the pact between the pair, Dumbledore entrusts Newt Scamander with stopping Grindelwald from getting his way, from taking over the world. The problem is that Grindelwald is one of 3 candidates vying for the head of magic. He's got a legion of supporters. He's hoodwinked many into believing he's a good guy. A particularly rare beast, bearing in mind this is Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, holds the key to exposing him. But a lot has to play out before that can come to pass. Scamander gathers around him a series of loyalists, including an at first reluctant muggle. And clashes between Grindelwald's acolytes and the loyalists are inevitable. So that's kind of the story. David Yates, who has directed the first 2 instalments of Fantastic Beasts, continues at the helm. Steve Kloves, who was responsible for 7 films in the Harry Potter franchise, joins J.K. Rowling as the screenwriters. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still follow the broad story arc without a detailed knowledge, but appreciation of the nuances may well be lacking, right? So, I mean, you really need to understand what is sort of going on in the Fantastic Beasts world. And if you don't, if you haven't seen the other movies, that's a problem. I struggled. I got to say, I struggled, and I'd seen the previous films. That's not to say I didn't admire the whiz-bang imagery, the magic that was ever present. I certainly did. But I found myself tuning out. And, I was trying to get a fix on all the characters and their backstories, and I struggled with that. And as far as I'm concerned, each of the instalments has carried on for too long. Nothing wrong with the actors filling the roles, mind you. They're all slick and seamless. We're talking Jude Law as Dumbledore, Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, and Mads Mikkelsen as now Gellert Grindelwald. I mean, I thought they were impressive enough, but I just found the story too confusing. What do you reckon, Greg?
Call me a muggle, but this one left me cold. I thought it was too bloated and a little bit confusing there. I thought Mads Mikkelsen was a good replacement for Johnny Depp, though, as Grindelwald. I thought he brought a sense of menace to his role there, and his understated performance worked in the favour of the character. And Dan Fogler brings some humour to the material there, but I just thought it was over-plotted, over-long, and confusing is the word I would have used as well. And sort of, there's still more to come in this series there, and unfortunately, it doesn't lure me to think there's more in this film there. It's going to appeal to fans of Harry Potter and this magical world there, but the mere mortal like us probably won't get as much out of them. I found it just too confusing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a special effects extravaganza. I mean, that's really what it amounts to, isn't it? So, I mean, Dave, did you get more out of it than we did?
Yeah, well, I am a very, very big Wizarding World fan. As I talk to you right now, there's a Newt Scamander figurine looking at me. So I did really enjoy this film. I thought that it brought a closure to some of the storylines that we've been following, but I'm just in awe of Jude Law playing Dumbledore. I was very critical when they first cast Jude Law in that role, but I think that he actually humanizes Dumbledore. In the Harry Potter series, we saw Dumbledore as kind of this godlike figure who everybody respected and everybody loved, and there was never many faults with Dumbledore, whereas here Jude Law makes him a much more human character. I would love to know when Dumbledore decided to stop wearing smart early 1920s suits and started wearing elaborate gowns like he does in Harry Potter, but I actually found this to be a very grounded film, and I'd spent the last week watching the two films prior to this, and I actually think this one is a lot better written than the first two films in this franchise. I thought the first two films kind of were very much, let's have a scene here where two characters are talking, now let's have an action sequence, whereas now they feel like J.K. Rowling has stepped in as a screenwriter, and she's getting more out of being able to write, and she's actually learnt that right mix now, because I thought the characters came alive a lot more in this film. I did think it was a bit surprising that Newt wasn't always the focal point in this film as much as what he has been in the other films when these are supposed to be his stories, but I thought this was a better screenplay than the previous two films.
I thought that was due to the input of Steve Kloves more than J.K. Rowling. I thought he was brought in to add that depth to the characters in the script rather than anything else, because he's got that connection to the Harry Potter world, and I think he brings in lots of little subtle references to the Harry Potter mythology as well, but I thought the script and that is down to him more than J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I think they do co-write it, but you might be right. Steve Kloves might have done a little bit more, but yeah, because I think the first two films, it felt like it was a fan almost writing them, which I know J.K. Rowling's not a fan, she's the creator, but it had that feeling, whereas this time around it felt like a more grounded screenplay that allowed for characterization to shine through a little bit more.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
And it's sort of setting the tone and future directions for the rest of the Fantastic Beasts quadrilogy, or whatever you call it.
The quadrilogy before, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly. Okay, Peter, go for it.
I actually didn't mind this film. I thought it was a nice continuation of the first two because of the way it was written and because of the characterizations. I also was quite impressed with the look of the film and some of the inserts of some of the CGI, etc., which worked actually in the film's favour, especially the beasts as well. And I liked the journey, and especially the allusions to Nazi Germany and to the Trumpian approach to politics. So I think there were some smart aspects to the screenplay, which worked very well. And it had it had a morose sort of feel to it, even though it ends reasonably positively. And I liked that sort of approach, that sort of feel about these characters and about their journeys and about the competition between them and about the beasts that are there to save humanity, which is obviously one of the themes of the film. So I quite enjoyed it.
So let's go with scores. Start with you, Peter.
Look, I really liked it. I gave it 7 out of 10.
Greg.
5 out of 10. I'm still scratching my head over it, and I'm a muddle, basically.
I'm with you, Greg. I'm giving it a 6. Dave?
Oh, look, I feel like I can only give one score this week, but I'm giving it 8 out of 10. It really is my favourite of the franchise.
Okay, well, there we go. So we got 2 and 2 on that film, but that's the beauty of being able to discuss and debate about a film or a show. And that's what we do